I agree with you. So there's someone, now she's from your kind of neck of the woods, but I think she lives in Houston now. But I think she's originally Australian. Her name is Dr. Caroline Leaf, and that's Leaf. Uh-huh. She is a neuroscientist who writes all about how to, like, scientifically, the studies that she's done, how we rewire our thoughts biologically. And so it might be very interesting to you. I think one of her last books was called Clean Up Your Mental Mess.
Wow. Thank you.
She has a neuroscience institute in Houston, which is like next on my radar to actually go to after I finish my PhD. But I think it's Houston now. But I've been following her and reading her material. She used to have a program that I did like 20 years ago. It was called the 21-Day Brain Detox.
Brain Detox.
And now she has an app, and it's like called the Neurocycle app, I think. And so it's like a 90-day kind of program to rewire your thoughts. But it's really interesting. It would be interesting to see how, like, biologically and physiologically, it lines up with the behavioral science that you're doing for rewiring your thinking.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I'll connect with Caroline Leaf, right? I'll connect with her later after this one.
Yeah.
So what made you remember about her program 20 something years ago?
Because I still use it all the time. And I've been rereading, I always buy her newest books when they come out. She's gotten a lot more notoriety. She was just on an interview with Mel Robbins recently, and I was like, oh, look at her getting famous. When I started using her, I was really, it's not been quite 20 years. Maybe 15 years ago, I got really sick. I had chronic Lyme disease, and it caused a lot of brain swelling. I had to have actual surgery and a few other things that were, I was almost lost my vision and wasn't able to drive for like a year and a half. So it was really a very difficult time period. And someone told me about the 21-day brain detox. And originally I thought, well, I'm a pretty positive person. I don't really need to rewire my mind, right? I'm a very faith-based person, and I just believed in hope and prayer and was working on healing my physical body. And what I found out when I started doing the 21-day brain detox, I talk about it a lot when it comes to our negative thought processes, right? The negative voices that really speak to us, and they sabotage us. And part of the program, and I think it's very similar now, but she has, through research, said that it takes 90 days to cycle out, not 21. But I did like 7 cycles of 21 that year. And it really just starts with being quiet and meditating and letting those non-conscious thoughts trickle up through your subconscious mind to be aware of them. Like, what are the negative things I believe about myself? And so I sat the first morning kind of in disbelief that I had any negative thoughts that I believed about myself. And with, I thought, no, I'm a positive person. And within the first like 10 seconds of sitting there meditating, I heard like the phrase, "You're worthless." And I was like, whoa, like, who told me that? And why did I believe that? And why am I holding on to it? And her whole process is to listen for the negative thought and then speak the positive thought over it. So every time it bubbles up, then you say, no, I am worthy. I'm a child of the King, right? And you say the positive affirmations, speaking them into rewiring. And what her research has showed that it actually, like the neuroplasticity grows new thought trees, right? As you speak back over the negativity. And so, but yeah, I ended up doing it for like 7 cycles of 21 that year. There were a lot more things. Our non-conscious mind believes a lot of things that we're not conscious about, right? The connection between our subconscious and the non-conscious mind, sometimes we're not aware of what's in there and what beliefs we've held on to, or they could have been from a coach or a teacher or someone in your family when you were younger, but at some point we buy into the lie for a short period of time, and it becomes us enough that it's still there, right? Like, it's really about pulling them out by the root. So it's really fascinating, and it's still something, like, I can still at times feel that negative avatar rising up, right? Like, oh, because I made an agreement with it a very long time ago, I still have to remember to consciously disagree and speak the truth over it.
Wow, wow. Janice, we've been entering onto the topic of wisdom, that the purpose of this interview for tonight, right? And it's been merging into it very beautifully and naturally. So why don't we continue our conversation with the interview? How does that sound to you?
That's perfect. Let's do it.
Yeah. So for like earlier when I said to you that if when you graduate next year for your PhD program, please reward yourself for this big accomplishment. So come to Vietnam if you plan to. We are here. We would love to take you around and show you how beautiful our country, the culture, and the people here, like we did with many other speakers. Okay?
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, and for a little taste of our culture, it's very honor if our audience can have you to share a little bit about who you are and the works you do. Would you please do that honor for us?
I would. Thank you. I'm Janice Perkins. I live in Kansas, in the middle of the United States. My background is in marketing communication, and I have been on my own for about 6 years doing consulting, executive coaching, and leadership development training. One of my mantras is that I love to help people get out of their own way so they can love themselves and others deeper.
And why would you want to do that?
You know, because I've learned for myself that I am my biggest worst enemy. And if I get out of my own way, there's more impact to be made in the world, more love to be given and received. And honestly, it's more meaningful, right? There's more purpose to that than some of the corporate work that I've done in the past. But helping each individual person be the best version of themselves is much more rewarding to me.
This conversation is about wisdom, and I think the transformative moment that you've been through is really helping you to expand your ability to make impacts into the lives of other people through their coaching, through the works you do. And we want to understand how you come to that realization moment. So let's travel time together. Okay. How does that sound to you?
Perfect.
Okay. I'd like you to travel with me into when you were really, really young and share with me your memories about the first dream that you think Janice gonna offer. What kind of works that she is going to offer to the world?
You know, let's see. When I was younger, I knew it was something big. I guess that's the best way to say it. I always felt comfortable on a stage. Even though I was a late bloomer, and so I was very self-conscious about how short I was, and then my hair grew in curly, kind of out of nowhere, and so there were a lot of things about me that I felt very unbloomed at a young age, but also always felt I could do anything. That was always a seed inside of me, that I could do anything and I could just set my mind to it and I could get it.
So was that in nature, that the way you grow it up like that, or in nurture, or in family, there was somebody in your family had that, mentality as well that influenced you?
I think it's some of both. I have 2 sisters. We've talked about it often. I do believe I was raised by parents that didn't put limits on us. So the world seemed limitless, right? And the way they exposed us to the world, so to speak. My parents were both into music a lot. And so when we did travel, we always went to see musicals and shows and orchestras. And there's something about the creative world that does allow for that limitless feeling. So I think that's part of it. I also feel like, and in studying people and leaders for years, I feel like I was born to attack challenges. So they invigorate me. Difficulty, challenges, problems. I'm a solution maker, and I really love conquering things. If you tell me it's going to be hard or it's impossible, it makes me want to do it more. So I think some people are born with a risk muscle, right? And some people have to learn it. But I was definitely born with a stubborn perseverance to overcome, and the overcoming is very exciting to me.
So explain to us, like, what exciting, how does it look like to you when you talk about, you know, like obstacles or challenges? Is something that excites you?
It does excite me. It's almost like being, you know, I don't know if they have them in your country, but they have them here. The escape rooms. Do they have those there?
Yes,
Okay.
my children play that. I never went there, but I took them there. Yes. Tell me,
So
yes.
just the process of solving a mystery is very exciting. And the process itself is more fun than the actual outcome, right? I think that is just something that's innate to me, that difficulty brings out the best in me.
Difficulties bring the best out of you, right? So when you say that the world is limitless to you, if it can bring you to a moment that somebody give you the first piece of wisdom that you still remember up until today, what would that piece of wisdom, who's that person, if you still remember?
I don't know if I remember it being imparted as wisdom, but there are two people that made a very giant impact on me when I was younger. My grandfather was one of them. He was actually a pastor, and it wasn't even the way he was a pastor. He was incredibly generous and kind and very faithful. But it was his intellect. He had a very, very strong intellect, and he loved writing. So he'd always be down on his typewriter, his old typewriter. And I love still, like, I found through my mom's things this past year some more of my grandfather's notes, and I love reading. He always was very faithful in writing letters to me. And in particular, he always signed Philippians 1:3, which is, I thank my God every time I think of you. And that has been really seared in my brain as a way that he blessed all of us as grandkids, in the way that he gave gratitude for his family. He also loved to laugh. He was always playing pranks. And I think that his sense of humor taught me a lot. He was very wise in the way he took everything so lightly.
What about the second? Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. The second person I met, he was the father of one of my friends growing up. And he was also a quite faithful man. He was a pastor also. And I just remember thinking that the way I was raised in church was not the way that either one of them were. Meaning, I was raised in a quite serious religious environment. And both Reverend Wiggs, his name was Glenn Wiggs, and my grandfather, both were joyful. Like, they oozed joy in a way that just made you want to sit at their feet and giggle. And I just remember both of them having such a profound impact on the way I wanted to experience life.
And what age did you realize that, like aha moment?
I was probably an early teenager, probably middle school, probably 12 or 13, 14, 15, right around there, where I really, really thought about that. And through my young adult years, very much always kept them in mind in the way I wanted to experience the world.
Experience the world.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're gonna get back onto one of the two gentlemen later in this conversation. Let's carry forward with wisdom. And you've been meeting a lot of people and doing a lot of works to help other people to grow, right? So, in your own words, how do you define what wisdom is?
To me, wisdom is a combination of gained experience and insight.
Mm,
And some people describe maybe it's intuition, maybe it's insight, but I think at times um, we are given faithful wisdom, and sometimes we are given human wisdom,
mm,
and sometimes we gain experiential wisdom, right, by the experiences that take place. And so I think there are a few different layers. I think maturity, emotional maturity, sometimes that's our actual age of maturity, impacts that, right? That
mm.
the nuggets of wisdom we get handed aren't as impactful until it means something to the age we are, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that is there's an alignment in our own intuition and our gut level feelings that makes wisdom so profound.
I noted in here, you see me up and down as I'm writing notes in here. You said that human wisdom, faithful wisdom, and experimental wisdom. What's the difference between the three? Can you help me to, explain more of that?
I really think that some wisdom comes from experience. So I get wiser because I have more knowledge and experience to see the landscape and understand life and people.
Hmm.
I think that human wisdom can come through relationships and emotion and the way
Ah,
we relate and love people, right? When we experience a broken heart, how much wiser we are,
yeah.
right? To know and understand love. And I think faithful wisdom is really that thing that we're kind of born with and is spiritual, right? Sometimes there are situations in which I get a lot of what I would call spiritual wisdom and insight that is not coming from me. It's much bigger than me, and I wouldn't know that information otherwise.
How can we make sense or understand that faithful
Mhm.
wisdom?
I think that comes from growing our own faith, right?
Mm,
And the relationship we have with our creator. It is that the more we spend time with and study, the stronger our decoder key is, right? For understanding that spiritual wisdom.
Because earlier I asked you about the people that may have have an impact on you about wisdom. You pick your grandfather who is a pastor, and then your father, your friend's father also who is a pastor. So it's very having the faithful wisdom in here, and then it's also affecting you on that one. So how have you grown that faithful wisdom for you in your life, Janice? What do you do with that?
Hmm. I'm a work in progress. I would say the best parts for me, honestly, is in the past few years, meditating.
Hmm.
Many years, I find a connection when I'm in nature, right? Long walks, kayaking, even my feet in the sand. I feel a connection. When I feel a connection to the beauty of the earth, I feel a connection to its creator. And so I feel like that strengthens my relationship because it builds my awe and respect.
Wow.
And there have been seasons where I had more time to study scripture and be in fellowship with groups of people who will also have the same yearning. And there are seasons when I have time for that and seasons when I don't. And I think for some people, they do it individually and some people do it in groups. But I believe the people I surround myself with help me resonate that spiritual energy and help me grow it.
Since you mentioned about connection with the creator when you walk, right? Because I walk every day. I could not make that connection. And I think that a lot of people also want to make that connection to understand who we are, why we are here. And if they can hear, how or what practice do you do when you walk or when you meditate that can help you to release and make yourself connect to the creator, that would be very helpful for us to understand. So what normally do you do with that, Janice?
I believe it's an openness. It's in, sometimes when I start coaching someone, I will say the only thing I require is willingness, right? We can make all kinds of agreements, but I just need willingness. And I believe that's the same in our spiritual relationship. It's a willingness for me to be open. And at times I get met with my own independence, right? I'm a very do it all myself. And one of my favorite authors, Mark Batterson, one of his favorite sayings that I've adopted is to pray like it depends on you. Pray like it depends on God and work like it depends on you. And so that's what I really feel like. I have to be a good steward of the talent that I have, the time and resources I have, the relationships I have, and I want to be a good human steward. At the same time, I'm going to be open to the fact that I'm not in control of any of it. It's bigger than me. And even like us meeting, right? Is it perchance? No. I think that, right? Everything happens for a reason. And when we're open, then we get to receive, right? But I could be closed off to opportunity, human opportunity, not just spiritual. And I think that openness is a very big factor.
Wow.
In my ability to grow spiritually and emotionally.
I think openness is something that went with you to everything that you do also. Openness to learning, openness to connecting, openness to trying and experimenting also, right? So where does it come from in your life?
Openness?
Yeah. How did that grow in you? Yeah.
When I was young and naive, it was natural. My friendships and my family were very loving and kind. And so it was very natural to be open. And then I think I learned through negative situations in my adulthood that feeling of being closed off was uncomfortable. And I learned from failure how important it was to remain open. I've challenged myself at times. Wanting to stop and protect ourselves isn't as rewarding as being open. And part of being a risk taker, I told you at the beginning, I love taking risks and challenges, is I've had to be accountable to myself for that emotionally also. And in relationships, to remain open is a challenge in the face of difficulty or failure, but it is the same resilience that makes me want to get up and keep going, right? When it comes to openness. There's a really fantastic, I would say it's a fantastic book. It's a fantastic concept, but it's academically written, so it's a bit difficult to read. But it was a book I read for one of my classes called Rewriting Partnerships. And she defined openness on 7 different planes. And it was so eye-opening to me, from the idea of that openness involves my heart, It involves the way I construct the version of myself, the construction of you, and the way I'm open to resistance, and the way I'm open to even structures, right? When we think about like the beautiful picture that she created was you can put a circle of chairs in a room, but that doesn't create openness, right? So oftentimes, even in organizations, we create a structure or a design for openness and relationship building, but our hearts are closed, or we are rigid and assumptive in the way we are biased in the way we view other people, and that's not open. And so when I read that, I was like, wow, there's so many more layers to openness than I even realized, but how important it is that it's a basic tenet for building relationships and being able to accept and build on wisdom.
Wow.
Right? If I'm not open to wisdom, I can't receive it.
Absolutely. So it starts with us, right? Start with us first. Yeah.
Mhm.
And when we talk about a relationship, so it's about people around us. In the world full of noises, right? It's hard for us to truly see who's next to us as the wise person, or it's just somebody that acting to be wise. And I think that if we can realize who can be in that category of wise person, that we can be and be part of that community, be part of that movement that can help us to get wiser faster and be happier in life, right? So how can we define, how do you define a person is wise, a person is not?
Well, there's a certain energy to wisdom. It's
Mm.
very deep, right? Authenticity isn't shallow. And I think wisdom is even deeper than authenticity. And so I think that you have to really kind of be quiet around it in a reverent way to really see if energetically people are deep.
Mm.
And I've met people at times. There are a couple people I know who are in this younger generation, even like my kids are, and they have an old soul. Have you met someone with an old soul who's young?
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you can feel the energy of their depth. And I think that's the openness, right? If my antenna isn't open to receive those signals and the energy of it, I think that wisdom isn't just spoken, I think it's felt.
So the curious for me is how do they do that? For example, like they're still young, right? And they need to have a long life living experience in building relationship, building, spiritual understanding of the world and beyond the world, right? So how could, these young people build that capacity so quick? What did they do right?
That's a very good question. I think some of it is indwelt. I think that we are handed things, right, in our being, in our soul, and a connection to others and the world beyond us when we remain open, or even in their cases, maybe they were extremely open and they're receiving, right? It's part of who they are. And I think that the connection to, when I said authenticity, right? I am so completely me that I can accept you as completely you. That is like the duality of openness, right? Like loving others is sometimes not the hardest part. It's loving myself, right? And so I can be so in tune with who I am that I get to resonate the depth of what I was handed in the world larger than me, right? Something bigger than me, when I'm connected to it, means it multiplies. Truly.
I think the world is asking us to keep running and chasing and chasing. So that's why a lot of people out there keep chasing like a hamster on the hamster wheel, right? And when you talk about slowing down and tuning with ourselves, right? That is something that know by many people, but it's really hard to do by many people as well. So
Mhm.
how can we help them to realize the beauty of that so that they have the openness, they turn on the antenna inside of themselves and maybe practice a little bit to see the benefits of that?
Mhm. I think for me, I'm a doer and I love moving fast and doing, but I also know what I need to recharge. And like I'm a lake rat. And so when I put my feet, hang off the dock and put my feet in the lake, like I just feel such a connection to myself, not just the world. And allowing myself to slow down and reset is a really important part of life for me.
Mm.
Um, Starting doing daily meditation allows me that little glimpse of what I call vacation brain, right? More often. And even at the end of the day, I read books about grounding years ago. And so when I go in the backyard at the end of the day and throw the ball for the dog, I stick my feet in the grass, barefoot,
Mm.
right? I started playing golf a few years ago too. And one of my girlfriends and I, we play golf barefoot. And there's something so rewarding about just being grounded to the earth. And I really believe if we more often just put our feet in the grass and sat and took a breath, even if it was 3 minutes, how much more connected we are to ourselves and the world around us. That makes us slow down even for a moment. And those things recharge me so much. And I know I didn't do it as well when I was younger, but I think that's part of wisdom growing, right, with age for me,
Mm.
was knowing what I need to stay authentically me and stay connected to the deep, right? Um, the deep
Wow.
doesn't go that fast. The deep moves much slower than that.
Wow. The conversation like this is to help people to realize that realization moment when you say
Mhm.
that, because you've been the doer for, for a long time, and for sure now until many more years, you still in the one that creating and doing and building, right? But you say that the moment you know that you need to, to make change, to rest, to connect into the deeper, what make you reach to that realization moment?
Oh, a variety of different things. I mean, when I
Mm.
was going through the chronic illness about 15 years ago, um, when your physicality is stripped away, right?
Mm.
Um, I had lots of time to meditate in my emotional and intellectual self. And I think it's in loss where we gain, right? If there isn't failure, we don't grow. If we don't lose, we don't gain. And I think that really reminded me of the pace of life, and the meaning comes through the relationships, not the achievement,
Mm.
you know? And even this happened even a year and a half ago, and it's hard for me to admit it, but I was having a difficult time with something going on in my personal life. And so I decided to start a new gratitude practice so I could focus on something good instead of the negative things happening. And I did a gratitude practice every morning and evening for about a month. And it made me crankier, which is not supposed to happen at all. It was like, why is trying to be grateful making me cranky? And one of my very wise friends was having coffee with me. And she laughed at me and said, Janice, it's because you're doing gratitude, you're not being grateful. And so right, even now, I can get caught up in and forgetting to do the being before the doing. So
What
I
is the
have to remind myself.
Yeah,
Hmm?
sorry. Finish your sentence. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, just I get caught up in the doing before the being. And it's an ever present reminder. I have notes to remind myself and what I have to meditate on. The being is more important than the doing.
Wow, wow. Who is that friend that that reminded you is a very accountable person next to you. What is her name?
Her name is
Good.
Elizabeth.
Huh?
Elizabeth, very Elizabeth.
Oh,
Yes, I have a very wonderful circle of women who hold me accountable.
wow. I
Hmm.
think we mentioned earlier the importance of the people in our relationship, right? So it's also because for us to go wiser, we need to be selective of things we need to do with people we need to be in our
Hmm.
circle as well. So for you, if you select the people into your inner circle of influence, so what kind of people that Janice would love to, have have in her own circle?
Well, here's the amazing thing that I realized probably in my 30s, maybe, but I realized that the energy that we resonate is what we attract.
Hmm. True.
And so it is in being authentic to who I am and my values, and that attracts the right people. And I give them permission to help me be the best version of me. I don't want them to let me off the hook. So, and I have all different people in my circle from all walks of life because of how much I love to learn about difference.
Hmm.
I don't want all sameness. That's part of me always challenging myself, I think, to be a little unsettled. But it's part of why we were talking about earlier in the conversation, my research for my PhD around the benefits of the phenomenon of chemistry is that in physics, they call it resonance or coherence or
Good.
entrainment, that when we are, right, the same frequency, then the two of us are stronger, right? The sum is stronger than its parts.
Hmm.
And I think that is the benefit in our friendships and in our relationships, that when we really focus on staying resonant and intentional to ourselves and we're grounded and authentic, when we attract those same things, then we multiply the benefit because of that resonance. It spreads and it multiplies, right? And
Yeah.
I think that is the thing that, and in my 40s and 50s now, I find to be the strongest lessons I've learned.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
For example, if someone uh, being led their life by the negative energies, so that very same thing that you just shared, they are attracting their life negative energies also. So we suck them down into
Mhm.
the in life, right? How could you start to make the difference in their life?
Well, I think that it's the resilience that we need. We all experience negative things, whether it's failure or health things or loss. I think it's the ability to look up and get up, right?
Mm.
Um, Asking for help is hard for all of us. But I think that it is the thing that builds community, because I love to give to other people in the same way that you do. So someone asking for help, that vulnerability allows for the openness to begin.
Mm.
When we self-isolate or um, we think we are alone, it's harder to get back up sometimes.
Yeah. You mentioned about the word think. And my wife and I, earlier I mentioned with you that we opened a company called Rewire Thinking, right? And this is the result of our journey the past 4.5 years, 4 years, 2 months, right? Of traveling, of meeting experts, of interviewing, having conversation like this to explore their ability to expand their ability to think. So for you, Janice, how have you been growing your ability to think over the years?
Hmm, that is such a good question. I have to be more conscious of what my mind is doing when I'm not in charge of it. That's probably the best way to say it. My mind can run amok and it is not in charge, right?
Mm.
I can manage, I can control, I can shape, I can rebuild, I can resculpt. And even after I was really sick, you know, the things that I learned about my mind, my memory, the strength of the power that the brain has to recuperate
Mm.
through having, you know, through the illness I had so much brain swelling that it caused a traumatic brain injury. And at times I thought, well, I wasn't going to have short-term memory. I wasn't going to be able to have, like, I would get caught tip of the tongue syndrome often and not think of words or remember people's names. And, you know, it is unbelievable how much recovery and healing can take place in the power that the mind has. And I was not managing that power. I was letting that power run amok.
Mm. So, yeah, continue, please.
Oh, just being more conscious of the negative thoughts that could be driving it, or really not being resilient, honestly. And the power of hope, the power of positivity. I'm not some crazy false positivity person. I understand the reality of life. I would call myself more of a realist than I would, I'm more of a realist than anything
Mm.
else. But I also know that if I don't look up, right, then I drive backwards.
Mm.
And I often talk about, like, where we focus is where we go. And so I have to be looking up, right? I don't want to be looking backwards. You know, Mark Batterson, my favorite author, also says we have to let go of dead yesterdays and unborn tomorrows. And because
Wow.
they keep our focus from where they need to be, right? And I think that where I look is where I go. And so I think more than anything, that is what the resilience has taught me, is to keep moving, is to keep moving.
Beautiful. Two last questions. So if you know, this is not a question. This is the if I choose you to meet with your grandpa or the father of your friend now,
Mhm.
so who between the two would you choose?
Oh, my grandfather.
Okay.
Mhm.
So assuming that you and I gonna travel time and meet your grandpa, all right, and you're gonna tell him about your journey, about wisdom, about life, about anything, and if there's a few things you want to talk to him about that, what would you tell your grandpa?
Um, wow, what would I tell him about? I don't know. I always wanted to sit at his feet and listen to his wisdom, and I miss his laughter, the sound of his laughter. So I would probably tell him something initially to make him laugh, because his laughter was a beautiful song. And I would tell him thank you. Ah, that's gonna make me cry. At the legacy that he built, the example that he lived, the joy that he embodied, you know, being open. He was an open man and allowed joy to resonate, and it passed through multiple generations.
Wow. I mean, the tears you have is a good
Mhm.
one. This is
Yeah.
it's emotional. It's good. So I'm sorry that you had that, and uh, I love you. So Janice, last question is about if there's one piece of wisdom that you want everyone who listen to this conversation is to have in their life. What is that you
Mm.
want them to have?
I really think it comes back to openness. I think that I have to be open to myself, open to others, and open to something bigger than me. I think those three things together weave together the beginning of a beautiful tapestry for wisdom to be born and to resonate in each of us.
Wow. Wow. Janice, it's a wonderful conversation, and I learned a lot from this conversation. The emotional writing that we've been having also. We travel time, we learn a lot about the importance of the wisdom of joyful in life, right? And openness. That's very important because that is the leading indicator for curiosity to lead the rest of what we do also. So resilience, you're saying. And well, I really look forward to the opportunity that we be able to meet you in person. And I congratulate you in advance for graduating your PhD program in May of next year. And when you get to that point, please let us know so that we can congratulate you. We can celebrate with you together from Vietnam. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. It was so wonderful to see you. So
You
wonderful.
too.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Let's not go so long next time.
Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day. Okay?
Okay. All right. Bless you. Bye.